Do you know what's the strangest thing about destiny? It's not when Allah pushes someone away from your life. It's when, unexpectedly, He brings you into contact with the person your soul recognizes before your heart even understands. And often, it doesn't begin with love at first sight, but with peace. A peace you've never felt before. You don't understand why, but something inside you knows. This is different. What if I told you that this encounter isn't a coincidence? That perhaps Allah is already leading you there, through every trial, every rejection, every penibulitance you're experiencing today. Stay until the end, because what I'm about to tell you could make you see your expectations and your future in a completely different way. You know, sometimes you walk alone, and it's not a mistake. It's not because you're late, nor because your life is empty, nor because you're not good enough. It's simply because Allah placed you in a moment of silence before the light. This silence can be heavy sometimes. You wake up at night, stare at the ceiling, and wonder why no one really sees you. You smile in front of others, but inside, there's a question that never fades. When will it be my turn? You don't always admit it, but your heart has cried out 1,000 times. And yet, every cry, every sigh, every prayer whispered deep within you, Allah has heard them. And no word has been wasted. Also no tear has been wasted. Because in this silence where you think you're alone, something is brewing. You see, Allah doesn't make you wait to punish yourself. He makes you wait to purify yourself. He keeps you away from what isn't meant for you, even when your heart desires it. And that is a form of love that few understand. You may think you're in a period of emptiness, but in truth, you're in a period of spiritual gestation. Your soul is being shaped. Your wounds become doors. Your disappointments become filters. You're learning to recognize what comes from Him and what comes only from your impatience. And sometimes it's painful, because you see others moving forward. You see weddings, smiles, announcements, and you remain in the shadows. You wonder if Allah has forgotten you. But what you don't see is that He placed you in the shadow to protect the light you already carry. He wants your future love to be born from a healed heart, not one that seeks to fill a void. There are people you've loved and you weren't meant to keep them. Not because they were bad, but because they weren't your test, nor your cure. And when Allah took them away, it wasn't a loss. It was a liberation your future self will thank you for experiencing. You think you're waiting for a human being, but in reality, you're waiting for a specific moment. A moment only Allah knows. A moment when your heart, your faith, and your destiny will finally align. On that day, you'll understand why nothing worked before. And on that day, you won't be running. You won't be in doubt, nor afraid. You'll simply be ready. Not because you'll have planned everything, but because your soul will finally recognize what Allah has always prepared for it. But for this recognition to be possible, this silence was necessary. This apparent emptiness, these lonely nights. Because without these trials, you would never have known the difference between someone coming to you and someone Allah sends you. You see, there is wisdom hidden in delay. Every time you thought you'd found the one and everything fell apart, it wasn't a punishment. It was a sign of direction. A reminder that your heart should not cling to what is fragile, but to what is eternal. And sometimes, Allah delays your meeting so that you learn to choose Him first. Because before entrusting you with a soul to love, He wants your heart to have found its center in Him. Otherwise, your love would become a form of gentle idolatry. You would seek in a person what only your Creator can give you. This silence you experience today is therefore a divine conversation. You think nothing is happening, but in reality, everything is aligning. Paths are being traced, souls are drawing closer, plans are being rewritten. And one day, without warning, that person will appear. Not with spectacular signs, but with an unusual peace. A quiet certainty. A feeling that will tell your heart, this is it. But to recognize this peace, you had to experience turmoil. To recognize sincerity, you had to experience disappointment. To recognize light, you had to walk through silence. So yes, you are walking alone today. But you are not lost. You are simply being led. And even if you see nothing, Allah sees everything. Every detour, every unanswered prayer, every endless wait, everything is part of the writing. And if you knew how beautiful this writing is, you would stop doubting, even in the darkest nights. Because Allah's science is never forgetting. It is a secret in the making. Imagine this. Two roads, far from each other. Two souls walking, each with their own weight, their own prayers, their own scars. They don't know each other, they don't cross paths, and yet their footsteps have always echoed to the same rhythm, somewhere invisible. On the first road, there is you. You move forward, sometimes groping. You fall, you get up, you change direction without really knowing where you're going. You try to love, you try to forget. You try to understand why every almost ends in silence. You don't see it, but above your path, there is a hand tracing. A subtle, invisible, but perfect writing. Every detour, every loss, every wait is part of the same story. And on the other road, there is someone who is experiencing, in this very moment, what you are feeling. Someone who also wonders why it never works out, why the emptiness is so heavy, why love seems so far away. But this person also doesn't know that through each wound, Allah is shaping it for you. You see, Allah never creates isolated stories. He creates intertwined destinies. And sometimes, what you call a breakup, He calls a readjustment. When someone leaves your life, it's not an erasure. It's a divine hand gently moving a piece so that the final picture makes sense. How many times have you thought it was over? How many times have you said to yourself, it was the right time, the right person, but the wrong destiny? What if it wasn't the wrong destiny, but precisely the right destiny? The one needed to bring you here now. What if everything you lost wasn't a mistake, but a preparation? Look at your journey. Look at the detours, the delays, the heartbreaks. Everything that broke you also refined you. You don't feel things the same way anymore. Your outlook on love has changed. Before, you sought passion. Now you seek peace. Before, you wanted to be understood. Now you want guidance. And that's the difference between a ready heart and a heart under construction. Meanwhile, on the other road, this person is learning the same thing. They're going through their own storms, their own questioning. They're letting go of what isn't for them, unaware that all of this is also bringing them closer to you. Two souls, two trials, one story. But the story God writes has nothing to do with ours. We write in a straight line: encounter, love at first sight, promise, ending. He writes in circles, perfect loops, where each detour always leads back to the center, where He wants you to arrive. And it's often when everything seems to be falling apart that the story finally aligns. Because before two souls can unite, they must learn to exist alone, certainly, to stand on their own 2 feet without possessing each other. Allah never unites two lacks. He unites two completenesses. Two beings who, by dint of seeking the good, ended up becoming good themselves. Do you remember that moment when you begged Allah to take away that pain? You thought He had ignored you. But perhaps at that precise moment, on the other road, He had just broken something in that person's life, exactly as He did for you. Not to punish you, but to prepare you, so that when your paths finally cross, nothing will disturb what you've learned in solitude. Because true love isn't born by chance. It's born in synchronicity. When two hearts, after being tested, reach the same level of submission, when they no longer seek to fill a void but to walk together in the same direction, towards Him. And that day, it won't be an encounter like any other. It will be a recognition, as if something inside you said, "This was you all along." Not because it's romantic, but because your soul knew. It felt this peace before your eyes saw it. But before that day, all this chaos was necessary. The mistakes, the illusions, the separations. Because without these pages, your story would have no depth. And Allah never writes superficial stories. He writes stories that heal, that uplift, that transform. So even now, if you don't see anything moving, don't think that nothing is happening. Sometimes, the greatest love stories are being written in total silence. And you see only an empty page, when in reality, it's just Allah's pen dipping into the ink of your future. And perhaps, at this very moment, He is already tracing the sentence where your two paths will meet. Slowly, discreetly, perfectly. You don't know it yet, but perhaps what you are experiencing today is not the end of your story. It is simply the scene where Allah, in silence, is writing your encounter. Why haven't you met the right person yet? You ask yourself this question so often that your heart has made it a habit. But you know, there's a difference between not having found the right person and not yet being ready to see. Because sometimes Allah doesn't deprive you. He protects you from what your soul isn't yet capable of handling, from what could distract you from your true purpose before you even understand it. You think you want someone who loves you. But Allah, for His part, first wants someone who completes you in the mission He has given you. And as long as you don't know that mission, He delays. Not to humiliate you, but to elevate you. Why does it never work out? Even when you believe they're the one? Because your heart has sometimes confused intensity with destiny. You became attached to emotions that you believed were signs. But Allah's plan isn't recognized by the beating of the heart, it's recognized by the peace that accompanies it. And you haven't yet encountered that peace. You've known passion, longing, dependence, fear of loss, but not that silent tranquility that says, "This is right." Remember? Every time you thought it was finally the one, your heart would race, your mind would cling, and suddenly, everything would collapse. You thought it was a punishment, but it was a signal. A reminder that Allah refuses to let you chain yourself to what blinds you. Why is it taking so long? Because time, in the divine plan, is not a delay. It's a purification. Each season of waiting cleanses your heart of illusion. You think you're waiting for someone, but in truth, you're waiting for the version of yourself that will know how to love in a way that pleases Allah. Before entrusting a soul to you, Allah wants to teach you faithfulness in solitude. He wants to see how you handle absence before granting you presence. He wants to know if you can stand firm without depending on someone. If you can remain at peace even when your heart bleeds. Because that's what spiritual maturity is. Loving without losing yourself, waiting without despairing, wanting without idolizing. You see, you often say, "I'm ready," but Allah looks deeper. He still sees wounds that speak for you, gaps that disguise your love. And He keeps you in this waiting so that the day you meet the right person, you won't seek to possess them, but to understand them, to support them, to walk towards Him with them. Why do others find it before you? Because their story isn't yours. You look at their smiles, their marriages, their promises, but you ignore their struggles, their secrets, their trials. Allah never gives two people the same path, because He writes according to the needs of each soul. Perhaps your road is longer, because your love will have to be stronger. And what is strong always takes longer to build. Why do good people leave? Because they weren't there to stay. They were there to reveal a part of you that you would never have discovered without them. They taught you to love yourself, to set boundaries, to draw closer to Allah, to see the difference between what shines and what illuminates. Some souls come into your life like chapters, not destinies. And their departure isn't an end, it's a direction. Why do you sometimes feel your heart grow cold? Because you've grown tired of hoping without success. But know this, a cold heart is not a sign of failure. It's often the calm before rebirth. When Allah wants to bring you back to Him, He takes you through a period where everything seems extinguished. Because it is in emptiness that He recreates. It is in lack that He prepares for fulfillment. What if this person you're waiting for is also waiting? Somewhere, perhaps thousands of kilometers away, another soul is asking the same questions. They pray, they doubt, they hope, they fall and get back up, and you think you're alone. But in reality, you are already connected. Your prayers cross in heaven before your eyes even meet on earth. And it is this invisible bond that maintains patience even when everything seems frozen. You wonder when. Allah asks you how. How do you wait? With confidence or with despair? Because waiting is not a void. It is a mirror. It reveals what your heart truly contains. And if your waiting is exhausting you, it may be because it is no longer connected to faith, but to fear. So why continue waiting? Because Allah doesn't simply want to unite you with someone. He wants to unite you with the love that leads to Him. The one who will not turn you away. The one who will not bring you down. The one who will not exhaust you. He wants your future love to be a form of worship, not a distraction. When Allah decides to show you, it's never abrupt. It's not a firework, it's a dawn. A light that doesn't appear. It settles. Slow, gentle, obvious. Like a morning after months of winter, when the sun warms you without dazzling you. You will see this person, and your heart won't race. It will calm down. You won't have that dizziness that is often confused with love. You will simply feel a peace you've never felt before, a clarity in your soul, as if, suddenly, the pieces of the puzzle you thought were lost fit together by themselves. You won't need to run or convince or force things. It will be fluid, as if everything had been written that way from the beginning. Because that's precisely why everything was written. And you will realize that the detours, the delays, the pain, were not obstacles, but silent preparations for this precise moment. You will not see a perfect person. You will see a soul who speaks the same language as yours, even in silence. Someone whose presence will bring you closer to Allah without them even needing to say anything. It will not be a noisy love, but a lucid love. Not a fire that burns quickly, but a flame that shines for a long time. When Allah reveals, everything becomes simple. What you thought was complicated aligns. What you desperately sought finds you effortlessly. Because the truth is that Allah never intended for you to get lost in the search. He wanted you to be able to recognize His hand when it finally gave you what you'd always asked for. And when that person appears, you won't think, this is too good to be true. You'll think, this is too close to being a coincidence. You'll see in their eyes prayers you've never said, but that Allah has answered for you anyway. You'll recognize in their smile answers to long-standing supplications. Years of waiting, compressed into a single moment of gratitude. It won't be a spectacular miracle. It will be a silent miracle. Because the greatest signs of Allah don't appear with a bang, they are recognized in inner calm. You'll then understand that everything you experienced before wasn't delay. It was construction. You weren't punished. You were prepared. Prepared to love with lucidity, to choose wisely, to see with the eyes of the heart and not those of attachment. And you will notice something else. Allah never gives you an encounter without also giving you the maturity to protect it. You will know how to say no to what hurts. You will know how to say yes to what uplifts. You will no longer cling out of fear. You will hold on by faith. And that's when you will understand. The love that Allah writes is like no other. It is not a love that chains you, it is a love that frees you. It is not a love that distracts you, it is a love that refocuses you. It is not a love that makes you lose control. It is a love that teaches you self-control. And in this relationship, there will not only be two hearts, there will be one direction, a common qibla. Your prayers, your hopes, your inner struggles, everything will align. It won't be perfect, but it will be sincere. Not always easy, but always guided. Because a blessed love isn't one that avoids trials. It's one that emerges closer to Allah each time. And that day, you'll think back to all your nights of waiting. You'll think back to your prayers whispered in the darkness. To those moments when you said, "Oh Allah, I don't understand." And your heart will respond, "Now I understand." You'll understand why He kept you away from certain people, why He made you wait, why He broke you at certain times. Because without these breaks, you would never have known how to welcome the light with humility. Without these shortcomings, you would never have recognized the value of a soul that leads you to Him. And yet, this moment of revelation will not be loud. It will not come with sudden certainty, but with quiet clarity. A gentle, subtle sensation, yet so profound that you won't need to prove it to anyone. You will simply recognize it, as one recognizes a home after years of exile. And in that gaze, in that presence, in that peace, you will see that Allah has never been late. He simply waited for the moment when your heart would be able to receive without going astray, when your soul would be ready to love without turning away from Him. And then, in that moment, everything that had seemed confusing to you will finally make sense. The whys will become Alhamdulillah. The wounds will become bridges, and the silence will become light. But before that moment, there is always one last test, one last door to cross, the one where Allah asks you, "Do you still love me, even without knowing when I will reveal it?" When Allah sends you the person written for you, it's not just a love story. It's a meeting of destinies. Two souls who passed through the same fire without knowing each other, but who already carried the same light somewhere in the secret of Allah. It's not just a marriage between two hearts. It's a divine reminder. A reminder that Allah's wisdom weaves bonds that even time cannot erase. This meeting will not come as a reward. It will come as proof. Proof that Allah has never forgotten you, even in your quietest nights. You will then understand that everything you thought was delays were actually alignments. Invisible, precise, and precise preparations. This person will not come to fill a gap. They will come to complete a mission. Because a blessed marriage is not just the union of two people, it's the union of two spiritual paths. Two paths that have known pain, loneliness, and failures, and which come together, not to flee life, but to serve Allah side by side. You'll see, it won't be a relationship where each seeks to possess the other. It will be a union where each seeks to elevate themselves with the other. You won't say, "It's thanks to him that I'm happy." You'll say, "It's with him that I draw closer to Allah." And this is the secret of true union. When love becomes worship, when tenderness becomes protection, when complicity becomes a path to paradise. Because Allah does not unite two people to love each other only in this world. He unites them so that they may remind each other of a better world. When you fall, this person will lift you up saying, "Remember him." And when they doubt, you will be there to remind them, nothing is lost when it is for Allah. It will not be a love that blinds you, but a love that teaches you to see. Seeing beauty in effort, mercy in patience, wisdom in Allah's silence. You will then remember everything you have experienced before. Those broken promises, those unanswered prayers, those days when you thought your heart would never rise again. And you will understand that nothing was against you. Everything was for you. Every rejection, every loss, every failure. Everything was a direction toward what you were meant to be before you were found. Because before Allah sent you this person, He first taught you to be whole on your own. He taught you to love without depending, to give without exhausting yourself, to wait without despairing. And it is this spiritual independence that will become your greatest treasure in love. You'll see, this person won't come to save you. They will come to walk with you, hand in hand, not in fear of losing each other, but in the certainty of finding each other every day through Allah. You will learn to build, to fall, to start again, but always keeping this immutable center, Him. And that day, you will realize that you were not made for a fragile love. You were made for a love that withstands time, trials, and doubts, because it is based on a shared faith. You will understand that the true beauty of a couple is not in perfection, but in the way two souls continue to choose Allah together, even when life becomes difficult. And there will be a moment, a look, a gesture, where you will feel something indescribable, pure gratitude. You will look at that person and your heart will whisper wordlessly, "Oh Allah, now I understand why I waited." Because through this encounter, you will see that your waiting was not a waste of time but a school of faith. You will see that pain taught you patience, that solitude taught you connection, that failures taught you sincerity, and that, deep down, everything led you exactly where you needed to be, ready to love in the light, not in the lack. And when this light enters your life, you won't just thank Allah for the person you found. You'll thank Him for everything He put you through before showing you this light. You'll thank Him for the unanswered prayers, the closed doors, the tears shed, because they prepared you to recognize the value of this gift. And you'll realize that your story was never a series of accidents. It was an orchestration, a slow, sometimes painful, but always accurate melody. Every silence, every beat, every pause, everything led to this moment of clarity. And in this clarity, you'll see your past no longer as a series of mistakes, but as a series of signs. Signs you couldn't read at the time, but which Allah explains to you now, through this person, through this piece, through this evidence. And you will finally understand that this encounter was not only a gift, but a mission. Because loving within the framework that Allah has laid out is not simply living together, it is bearing witness together. Bearing witness that patience is real, that the promise is true, that Allah's silence is never a refusal, but always a preparation. And while you taste this new peace, something within you will bow, not before human love, but before the one who made it possible. And perhaps, at that moment, you will understand that the true miracle was not having found this person. The true miracle is that your heart survived everything you had to go through before meeting them. When Allah sends you the person written for you, you won't just see a face. You will see His mercy through a human being, and you will understand that your most sincere love story will have always begun between you and Him. So if these words have touched your heart, don't let this message disappear in your feed. Share it with someone who is also waiting, without understanding that waiting is part of the plan. And above all, keep your heart open, because when Allah decides to reveal, the light never gives warning before arriving.